call the meeting, Stan?
Yes, please.
At 7:33.
All right. So we have heard from the schools. And are folks aware that Bob Conry is leaving? Is anyone else aware of this?
Oh, no. Nope.
No.
Yeah, he is.
I have to say, I have enjoyed working with Bob. I've worked with a lot of school district directors of administration and finance, and Bob makes it very easy to work with the schools, even if we sometimes disagree. He's been good to work with.
Yeah, he has. So superintendent had reached out to me asking if I wanted to sit on the interviewing team. So they have interviews set up for Monday, the 4th, I think it is, April 4th. So I will join them for that, and at least that's my current plan anyway.
Do we know where Bob's going?
No, I actually was kind of hoping you had more info than I did. Jeff's reach out to me did not, I don't believe, included an explanation. It just says, "Hi Stan, as you may know, Bob has resigned from his position." It doesn't, I mean, yeah, doesn't talk about where he's going. So, and so he sent out some cost savings. I don't know, and I didn't look at who the string was, so I think that, I see June was on that too. So was everyone on that?
Don't remember getting that.
I don't think so, Stan. I think it just went to you.
Oh,
I
see. I'm on it as well. Stan, would you like me to forward it to everybody here?
I got it right here.
Okay.
I just,
Okay.
I apologize, folks, that I didn't pay attention to that. So I'm just looking for, he had a kind of a long explanation for why they were doing what they were doing or what they found. And I feel like that was a different email than what I'm just about to forward here. Oh no, here's this whole explanation. Okay, so I'll forward on the whole thing. Margaret, can you update them a little bit on that then while I'm typing in addresses here?
Yes. All right. So Bob proposes that they could restructure the English language, arts, literacy support in the elementary schools to achieve a budget savings at Berlin Memorial School of $42,623. He does say that any further savings could be he and Jeff both believe that it could be detrimental to student learning, additional cuts. And then he gives a little additional detail on the reductions there. He says at Tohoto, there is a new special ed out of district placement. The location of the placement's not known, but a low cost placement would run about $90,000. So they're anticipating an unbudgeted expense, new expense of $45,000. The managers, and then he presents revised assessments, but I'm going to have to go back to our presentation to, he doesn't, I don't think he says that he proposes a reduction.
Not for Tohono, he had just for Berlin,
yeah.
I think.
Yes, yeah, okay. So the current, let's see, Berlin's assessment currently for Berlin Memorial would be $3,640,948. The new assessment he shows would be $3,598,326. So again, that assumes a reduction of 42,623. Honestly, I think this is, I don't want to say this is exactly what the select board, what Scott in particular on the select board had proposed the other night, and the select board passed along to the finance committee. But I think, June, am I correct that they proposed about $20,000 reduction in each? Or was,
No, Scott had originally done 40 in each.
But then they-
And then I think Peg made a recommendation of doing 20 in each.
and so with a reduction of $42,000 in Berlin Memorial School, that would achieve the overall reduction that Peg had said.
Yes.
Okay.
So I can pull this up on the screen if we want to just take a quick look at that.
Sure.
Sure.
So this here is what they originally had requested, and this is the new dollar amount that Bob just sent us today. I did find that, again, there was a discrepancy again with the 68,000, so I did send him an email to clarify that, because I know on the original budget proposal, it was listed as 66 in one spot, 68 in another, but on this one, this email that he just sent, it was 68, so
Oh,
that we may
68.
need to, yeah, so we may have to relook at that.
Okay. We should probably plug in the, we should probably plug in the 68, huh? If he's,
Yeah, I think so.
which will all be funded from free cash. We just have to bump up the amount of free cash we're using.
So I'll pop it up for the admin, the TA recommendation to 68 at this point. And what we'll do is, if the finance committee so desires, we can vote on the higher amount, and then I can just bring it to the select board's attention on Monday.
All right. Do we want to start with the motion so we can have any discussion, or does anyone have anything to say before we have any motions?
What's the line number on that?
181, is that?
109.
Oh, sorry, 109.
110 is the assessment, capital assessment for Berlin Memorial, and 111 is for Tohoto assessment.
So just in case you guys are, not able to quickly read the email that I just sent, I mean, he does talk about any further savings. They both he and Jeff, the superintendent, believed strongly that it'd be detrimental to student learning and are not attainable without significant risk to the FY23 budget. Highlighting the fact that maternity leaves may require long-term subs for varying amounts of times, which result in unbudgeted expenses of $34,000. But I think they intend to try to absorb that. So sounds like they don't feel like they can cut anything else without affecting the quality of education.
My only concern is, from other meetings I've been attending, is that with the student population changing, that we're going to be looking at like increasing this budget moving forward. I'm just throwing that out there. I already know that they're thinking of needing a English as a second language teacher. We've never had that in Berlin Memorial before. So I know that they're saying this is impacting, but I mean, we're going to cut 40,000 this year to only then have to add 140,000 back into it next year. So
Yep.
I don't know. I feel bad. They're doing the best they can, in my opinion.
Janet, I agree. If I could, I agree with you. But I also want to stress that Berlin's increasing enrollment with the development in town is going to be seen year after year. We're going to continue to have to absorb a greater share of the school district budget assessments. Yeah. Now the special education, hopefully we can kind of nail down what they're going to be spending on special education in FY23 to determine what we should expect to be able to be applied in FY24 back to their special ed costs.
Right, and then keeping in mind that we do get some of that money back and making sure that it goes into the appropriate places in the budget, which, I mean, I think all school systems get their budget and they just rob Peter to pay Paul within their own budget. I think that's how most of them run. I mean, you know, then you have an unexpected retirement or, you know, whatever, somebody gets, they have to cover their own like daily things that just sometimes, you know, a teacher gets pregnant. Now you've got to hire a long-term sub, and you know what I'm trying to say? It's just the way of the world, but it is what it is.
Yeah, you just have to have faith that when they're doing their budget, that they have some cushions in there for some stuff. I mean, I would hate to think that they're right to the bone on everything, but hard to know. Anyone care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the school budget line items
109.
9, 10, and 11. 109, 110, and 111. Is that what I'm seeing? What about
Yes.
12?
You already voted on that last.
Okay.
meeting.
All right. So 109, 110, and 111.
Have a second? Crickets.
I'll second, Julie.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, roll call vote. Stan, aye.
Janet, I.
Julie, I.
Scott, aye.
All righty. So that's our, that is our budget, right?
I just want to confirm you want to do the 68,000 for the capital for Berlin Memorial.
Yes, as you had it on there, yes.
I'm sorry, was I supposed to include that in the motion?
Well, it was printed on line 110, so I assume we didn't need to state
Okay.
it.
I just wanted to
different?
confirm that before I changed it, that's all.
Yep. So,
Okay.
I suppose we should move on to articles.
There's nothing else in there that the selectmen didn't vote on Monday night that we can clear up? I
That's
thought they
it,
had,
that was the final.
The
just
last of our
school.
votes. That was all of it.
really? I thought
Yeah,
they had.
and they didn't
something
vote on the school.
Oh, all right. Maybe I was thinking about warrant articles. Because there were some of them they passed over, right, June, on Monday night? Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, there
I'm
was only
sorry.
a few. Yep.
I'm in, it's been a very long 3 days this week. I apologize.
No problem.
If you want to move on to start reviewing town meeting warrant articles, would you like me to share that screen?
Yes,
That would be
please.
great. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Hopefully you can make your way through these. The board did make a lot of progress. And June, you can cross-check me. You can cross-check me. If I was falling asleep on Monday night and missed something, just stop me. Okay. Unpaid bills of prior fiscal years. So, and I don't have to explain everything. The summary is right here. This is a small amount of money that's due for a UMass pre-hire physical bill, and it's a police department invoice from FY21. Do you want
I
to go
was
through
gonna-
all of them or do you
I
want
was
to do
gonna
one
say,
by?
do we have to do these at one at a time?
Well, I was going to just plug in I was going to plug in the vote if you wanted to do them one at a time, but we can. If we think anything's going to be contentious, just let me know. All right, the police and fire EMS vehicle, that's the fire department pickup truck and FY21 cruiser. Those sunset clauses need to be extended to allow for the delay in building them or supplying them because of the supply chain issues.
So this will be last year's vehicles that
Yep.
still haven't been delivered,
Right.
right?
Yes.
How
So
close is it?
Oh, go ahead.
Or how close is it with the police one? I thought they had, discovered the thing on their lot back in the second week of January and
They have discovered them. The concern is that if they don't have everything finalized and the final payments made by the end of June, then we would have a problem with being able to pay any further bills and we'd have to come back to town meeting. And so this is more just for a safety measure, just to make sure that they're all set on being able to spend the money without us having to go back to town meeting and do new articles.
Okay, so basically nothing's been delivered with only 3 months left in the fiscal year.
Correct.
Okay. Is that something that they're going to look at for? I mean, obviously this wasn't planned, but it's one of those things that could be to the benefit of no future replacements of vehicles, because obviously, is that something that we know that the capital planning committee is looking at to extend out like the next police car, that this one would be, that would replace this one that hasn't arrived yet?
So the sunset clauses are actually coming out of the capital budget article because the Division of Local Services in their financial management review actually recommended that we not put sunset clauses in the articles. And that the accountant is able to administratively close out special articles that are either completed or are not going to be completed. So I don't know if there was any other reason behind that, but the capital budget article no longer includes sunset clauses.
All right. Well, I think that's probably a good idea, especially for these
at least right
type of
now.
items.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So next one, anybody have any more questions on that? Okay, the next one is going to appear on the warrant and a motion. It may be passed over at town meeting, but this is a placeholder to allow free cash to fund a snow and ice deficit in the current year. If there is money available in the operating budget, we could do an appropriation transfer rather than appropriate from free cash, and that could be done as an end of year appropriation transfer. So this is just a placeholder in case June expects there's not going to be sufficient funds left in the operating budget to transfer. June, you want to?
I'm sorry, Margaret, what does that mean? What you just said for how to fund that?
Oh, the appropriation transfer?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Okay, so at the end of the year between May and July 15th, actually, the town can do end of year appropriation transfers from one budget line to another.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, interdepartmental transfers.
Sorry, that just didn't sound familiar. I'm also.
Yep.
We normally are able to do it and been able to cover it the last few years. My only concern would be is if, for whatever reason, we don't have funding sources available, then we would have to raise it on the recap sheet. So this is just an easier way to take care of it so we can fund it in other ways.
Okay.
All right, June, you want to take Article 4? Maybe we should alternate.
Which one is, parking lot. What we're doing is that we had received a grant for doing the parking lot. What was it called, Margaret? Something choice.
It was called the Housing Choice Grant.
And we received that. We also appropriated some money to also cover it in a special article. We wound up coming in really, really under budget. So there's still I'm going to say approximately the 159,000 that's still open in it. So what our thoughts were is to repurpose that fund to be able to do a little bit more work with the signage and the landscaping and some of the improvements to the outside of the building with these funds.
Mhm. Same with other buildings as well. So improving the curb ramps, entrances to the buildings and things like that.
So I'm sorry, so it just didn't cost anywhere near what we thought it would, is that what we're saying?
That's correct.
And we got, you know, $100,000 reimbursement grant. So
Haven't
Right.
received it yet, but that's still in
That's
the
right.
works. So
That's
yep,
right.
hopefully. Yep.
okay.
When you say like improving the curb ramps, I mean, that's like basically talking about like doing things for handicap, stuff like that.
Yes,
So it's coming in,
exactly.
okay.
Yes, exactly.
Because the
We know
original
that some of that
article,
work.
yeah, the original article didn't actually expand into that. I think we were all kind of thinking that, you know, the islands that were there were going to be done a little bit differently. And I think there was a couple of other ideas that were had, but it didn't come to fruition. So yeah, we're just seeing if we can just add a little bit more wording just to use the funds for that purpose.
All right, so you'll recall that back in November, the town established the Public Safety Special Stabilization Fund, which is funded through public safety mitigation receipts for various public safety purposes. So, oh, June, you can announce this. This is good news.
I was gonna say, did everyone see this? Go ahead.
We actually received the 600,000 and some change. I think it was 632 from Highland Commons. They actually sent us the check and they did not put it under protest. So we are very thankful for that. And we also received our first monthly installment of the $16,000 from River Bridge.
Excellent.
Yeah, so this is a big chunk of money that would be moved currently, and there could be more if Riverbridge pays in April.
But this
You mean
doing
when,
this-
Margaret?
exactly.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Margaret,
I meant when.
Stop that.
Yes,
I'm sorry. Did I say if?
you sure did.
Stop it.
I meant if or when.
I believe
Okay.
though we also changed the wording a little bit in this because we did not include wages. Is that what we had done, Margaret, also?
Yeah, so we did. We did change this, and legal counsel's taking, you know, town council's taking a look at this to make sure that the wording is appropriate. We've also asked, you know, we don't want to just move the money that's been received up until the town meeting. We want to be able to move any remaining receipts that through June 30th of this fiscal year. We don't want to have to keep coming back to town meeting to move the money. So if there's a way we can manage that, then hopefully town council can work on the wording to do that. Okay. This article, June and I are going to recommend be removed. June, you want to touch
For
on that one?
this year. Yeah,
this
just
year.
for this
Oh,
year.
yeah, just for this year.
During our DLS Department of Local Services review, one of the items that they suggested is that instead of us automatically taking in mitigation funds and putting it into open space, technically, I believe it's chapter 44, section 53 that says pretty much all funds are town funds unless there's a special law. And unfortunately, mitigation funds do not have a law established for them at this time. They are working on some things now. So what was recommended was this money would be coming into the general fund, and then we would just actually vote to transfer it into open space, just so that way there it was more transparent as far as what was actually happening behind the scenes. This year, it has been put in, because I had put it in around the same time that the DLS came out with their review, and I had put it into the account for open space. And currently, based on their estimates and usage of open space funds for this proposed land purchase, they're actually including that 50,000 already. So for this year, we may pass over this, but starting next year, we'll have to make sure that we're doing this going forward.
The rest of the for the remaining life of that. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And how many more of those are left?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
Sorry, I wasn't.
I will look into it and email you all. How's that?
Okay.
Okay. So, well, we are continuing to bargain. Actually, I think there's been quite a long pause with negotiations for the police union contract. This is a placeholder to appropriate any additional funds necessary beyond what the contingency line item for this year will allow to fund contract costs. I don't know. I'm not 100% positive that negotiations will be done by then. So this might have to be passed over at town meeting.
What do we do then, Margaret?
In order to fund a contract, it would have to come back to a special town meeting.
So we'll have a town meeting in May and then we'll have to have one so many months later, or do we have to have an
It doesn't have to be
immediate?
a special town meeting. It would be at the next town meeting. We'd have to fund it. So it'd be at a future town meeting because only town meeting can appropriate the funds.
Right.
Okay. All right, so Chief Clark has explained that there is going to be a cost overage of a little over $3,000, I think about $3,500 for the radio system in the ambulance. That we've already appropriated $315,000 for it. And he says it's going to go over by $3,500. And so on Monday night, the select board decided to put $5,000 in there just to not cut it that close.
I'm kind of confused. Where did the 3,500?
So this money would be appropriated or transferred from available ambulance receipts.
Okay.
And there are sufficient funds in ambulance receipts right now to be able to do that and put $100,000 to the operating budget.
And where's the rest of the money coming from?
That
Was that
came from
mo-
ambulance receipts as well.
Okay, so it's all
Last
coming
year.
from.
Yep.
Oh,
Last
okay, so-
year.
Okay.
I'm assuming this is the cost of everything else that's increasing
Oh, yeah.
because of COVID and everything, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything's going up. Oh, and that's the same with this article. So the Cable Access Committee wants to do the wiring of 2 of the meeting rooms in the town offices. And so they're estimating that it's going to cost an additional $10,000 to get that work done. I heard from the cable access director today. She said the request for quotes looks good. And so I plan tomorrow or Friday to actually issue the request for quotes and we'll see how they come in. But this would appropriate an additional $10,000 beyond the $40,000 that's been set aside this current year. Is that right, June? We did 40, right?
40 this year, yes,
Okay.
is what we have. And I think if we can, just before we go to print, just double check that to make sure that
Okay.
they're going to be able to spend all the money this year.
Okay. And if not, we've got a separate article for next year's budget and capital. We'll have to figure out how to word that motion if they complete the project this year. Okay, Articles 10 through 16 are the usual consent articles.
Okay,
I don't know how detailed we
Before
have to
we
get
go
on these.
on, yeah, before we go on to, do we
Oh.
want to vote on that first section, which was fiscal
okay.
year, fiscal year 22 was the first part we just went through. Upcoming fiscal year, that should be 2023.
Oh, yeah, it should. Look at that.
And I did just look up how many more years we have for the mitigation money coming from Solomon Pond, which is the $50,000, and it's through 2028. So we still have about 5 years.
A quick question on Article 9, does that work for just 2 meeting rooms or is it other?
Just 2. It's for
Just
the
2 meeting
hearing
rooms.
room at the end of the hall and room 218 in the middle of the hallway, 2nd floor. Oh,
June,
and the
where-
cable.
June, about the Solomon Pond, I was at conservation and I could have sworn they said next year was the last year they would be getting that.
Oh, that would be fine. We can take the rest.
No, maybe I misunderstood, but I thought that, well, that's good that we have that, but I thought she said it was ending 23.
Unless it was that it automatically going to the account.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
right,
So are
I'll
we
double check
voting
with
on
her.
Articles 1 through 9? Is that what you're asking us to vote on? So I make a motion that we accept Articles 1 through 9.
Do I have a second?
You asked for a second, Stan, or did you second?
Yes, yes, please.
I'll second the motion.
Any
Another
further-
quick question. Yeah, quick
Yep.
question going back to, do you scroll back to Article 6?
Yes.
This has a little bit of, I guess, corollary to one of the later articles we haven't talked about yet, but for the land purchase, I saw that one of to close the final gap, they're going to recommend or ask for 100,000 from free cash. Correct. So in many ways, this is, to me, almost thinking it's like be a negative to have this Article 6 for this purposes, because it gives the opportunity for them to, like in this case, grab something extra from free cash, because we, if we have all this continuing community preservation funds going in the future, but they're just short of what they want for their present needs. And essentially this would basically the future $50,000 payments could be going back to free cash for the next two to offset the free cash, even though I know the open space people or conservation would hate to hear that. But in my opinion, that would be, I think a compromise for at least what I'm thinking of, whether I would support the 100,000 for free cash to finish that out. If basically it sounds like we could get the future, that 100,000 replenished back to free cash and not send it back to open space. I mean,
And
at
there
least
is that
that's what-
possibility by placing the
I'm-
article. That's an excellent point.
That could be
That's an
doable.
excellent point.
So I mean,
I
for that
agree.
reason, I know you're talking about maybe possibly passing over. For that reason,
No, we're gonna
I'm likely,
go ahead.
well, right now, my own personal choice would be saying I would not want Article 6. I would be voting against Article 6, but would give my support to the later article where the 100,000 is coming from free cash.
Yeah.
But the idea that they're like borrowing against the future where we can then replenish free cash. At least that's in my own
That's a good point.
personal
So
opinion.
June's and my recommendation to the board on Monday night is actually going to be to remove this article from the warrant altogether, so that this is not even presented. So you'd see this, you wouldn't see this article at all. at
Can
town
I just
meeting
ask a
this year.
question though? I thought that the mitigation money had to go this way, and that because it was written in that they got this 50,000, that we really didn't have an option of Article 6. It was just kind of like something we had to do every year because it was in there. So did I misunderstand that? Because I do agree with Scott, but I thought 6 was something that was just like one of those standard, because they're getting this money from Solomon Pond for mitigation. We've been doing this way for how many years now?
We haven't been doing this. Normally, you wouldn't see this at all. Normally, when the money comes in, I have been just putting it into the open space account based on the way the mitigation was set up. It's something that's always been questioned. Our Board of Selectmen, it's kind of the same reason why we opened up the stabilization fund for public safety. But pretty much when the DLS came in and reviewed our policies and what we were doing, this is one of the things that came up because, again, it goes back to the whole, if there isn't a law that says you can just automatically spend funds differently other than it being general fund, technically speaking, we should not be giving them the money unless it comes this way. So in the future, that's why we're gonna do it that way. Because if we were to do it based on what the DLS said for this current year, then we would have to take the $50,000 that they are counting on for open space money and take that out, give it to general fund, which would then become free cash next year, but they would be asking for 150,000 out of free cash in fiscal year 23 to fund, because, does that make sense, Janet? I'm sorry, I'm rambling now.
No, I understand, but I guess I knew what you were saying in Article 6, but in the long run, they always got the money, but we just had to do it this way. So that's why I thought a yes vote was just kind of like saying, okay, they've always got the money, but now we're gonna be transparent on how you're getting the money. That's how I understood it.
Yeah.
Maybe I misunderstood you.
No, that is more of the reasoning behind the DLS saying we should be doing it this way.
So I guess my question to Scott is, this $50,000 normally goes to conservation, but we're seeing it this way based on what we've been told how to do things.
Yeah.
Correct?
Correct.
That's
Okay.
right. In
Okay,
future
I
years. Now, we
understand.
had already received these receipts this year. Not only that, when we get to that conservation article, it's going to say that they want to transfer $260,000 from the open space account. If they did not have this $50,000 already in the open space account, they wouldn't have $260,000 to put in to the project. So there's we're proposing removing this one.
Okay.
This year.
Is so the 260 they're talking about requires this 50,000?
It does.
Or
It
is-
actually does.
Yes.
And that's in there because we've received it.
Okay, you've received
Oh.
the money, and
Yep.
right now, at least from conservation standpoint, they're requesting 260, assuming that this 50,000 that
Is
would
there.
be is also there.
It's
Okay.
there. Yes. Their current balance is $284,279.45. They're looking to pull 260 out. So their balance remaining will be $24,279.45. And of that, their temporary conservation agent needs to be paid for the remainder of this year. So they will need some of those funds for that.
So should I withdraw my motion to do Articles 1 through 9 and exclude Article 6, or even if you pull it, it doesn't matter?
Just say 1 through 9 and 1 through 9, removing Article 6 from the warrant.
Okay, so I don't know how to do this. So should I just, because we haven't voted yet, right? So I can change my motion? Is that how this works? I want to do it
Yeah, you just need
correctly.
to amend it. Yep.
All right, so I'm going to amend my motion to accept Articles 1 through 9 and remove Article 6 from the warrant.
Is there a second?
You need
I'll
a
second that.
Okay.
Okay, so not to be dense, but Margaret, you said that money they were counting on as part of the 260. So
That's right.
So how do we remove it and then they still have the 260?
All you're doing is removing this article where we were going to move money from free cash to the open space fund. The money that this $50,000 instead this year has already been put into the open space fund. That makes sense? The
Part
receipts
of
come
that
in and it was
280.
So they're getting mitigation funds of 50,000, but then but this article would have just given them an additional 50,000? And
No.
that 50,000 coming from free cash?
No, this is going to be the mechanism in future years. This article is going to be the mechanism in future years or something similar to this to move money into the open space fund, open space account based on the DLS recommendation. All this would have done is done the same thing that June did automatically when the receipts came in this year. When the $50,000 came in this year, she committed it to the open space account. This is a different mechanism for doing that. So that's why this is being removed. This year, the money's already in there. Sorry for the confusion.
And we'll see this next year in order to do
Yes.
it next year?
Yes.
Okay.
1,000 actually comes in from Solomon Pond. It will go into the general fund and become part of free cash the following year.
Right.
Well, myself, I mean, it'll be like a future thing, but myself would be that I would oppose it and have it just be able to go into free cash for the next 2 future fiscal years to repay the 100,000 if they get it from the free cash in the later article.
Which you could still propose
Yes.
when it comes time to vote the free cash one.
I don't want to jump too far ahead, but they're looking for a land grant, and we've also asked town council to find a way to put language in that in the land grant article that free cash would be the first thing paid back this year from any funds expended from free cash for the acquisition.
So not to jump ahead and not, but since we're already talking about it, I'm having a real hard time with the fact that we gave them money last year with them stating they would be selling 2 lots to help cover this cost. And now I understand those 2 lot sales are been taken off the table. And I mean, I just feel like I'm not saying I'm opposed to the land. I love the land. I think it's a great thing, but I don't think we're being as transparent to our community. When we voted last year, we'll give you the money thinking that we're going to sell 2 lots, and now we're not selling the 2 lots. I think that needs to come out and be told to people. Am I being too picky-uni here? Because if I am, I'll be quiet.
Janet, no, as I recall what Carolyn told us when she came to FinCom, the package they put together so far is $125,000 short to buy that Lyman property, whatever we're calling it now. And that conservation would be looking for that money to come out of free cash. I don't know if we have a warrant article that says that. I didn't get through the warrant articles.
That's further down.
Yeah.
For a hun-
Okay, so Janet, if the town does not vote that warrant article, then Sudbury Valley trustee is going to need to sell a lot.
Okay, my question on that, 'cause I listened to them at capital planning, and my impression was that they're going for the land grant and they need those lots to put in the trail. That's part of this land grant, but I haven't seen anything about how much the trail's going to cost.
So I don't think it's an either or situation, Julie. I think both can be done. It's just a question of how you structure the deal when you put it together. I think.
Okay, because when Carolyn was talking at, I think it was capital planning, I think she was saying that if they want to put in the accessible trail, they can't do the lots.
Right, because that trail, the topography
And-
required those.
But they also haven't put in how much they would expect that putting in that trail would cost. So you don't know how much it's going to cost to get that grant. Does that make sense? Because the grant will give you 600 or like half the price, but then you have to subtract how much putting in the trail would be. Because somebody has to pay to put the trail in.
So the trail is kind of at the bottom of my list, Julie, in terms of Sudbury Valley and the town of Berlin being able to conserve that chunk of property.
Yeah.
We're at the front end of that. We've got, the town has already given, as Janet noted, significant support towards this deal.
Yeah.
And I think the way we complete it will be up to the town voting on that other warrant article that we're gonna come up to. And if we as FinCom decide that we really would like Sudbury Valley to sell a lot and not get into town free cash to finish this deal out, then they're going to have to find another way to put it together. That walking trail was just in there, I think, as a sweetener, saying, "Oh, wouldn't this be nice to have?"
Oh, I thought that was part of their the grant.
You are right. The grant has to be something accessible to something with ADA, and it would have to be there is something there. I don't remember the exact verbiage, Julie, but she also told us at capital planning that Sudbury Valley doesn't want to sell the 2 lots.
Oh, okay.
So that was another piece. So we've got this, in order to get the grant, they have to comply with this grant and put this trail in on the level area because it has to be accessible. And I don't remember the exact verbiage, and that Sudbury Valley doesn't want to sell the 2 lots. So I'm trying to figure this all out in my head because that's not what we were told at the previous town meeting. So I want the land, but I want everything to be transparent so it doesn't come back to us and say, well, we didn't know what we were voting on, or we voted this way and now it's that way. I think transparency is the way to go here.
So Janet, Sudbury Valley would prefer not to have to sell the lots, okay? But they're invested in this deal much as the town is already. And if the town says Sudbury Valley, sorry, you need to sell them, then it'll happen. Now, with respect to the grant and this business about the walking trails, there's a lot of land there. I have to think that we can figure out a way to do both. So, but I don't know the details. I have to sit maybe with Carolyn and sit with the map and actually look at it.
I just want somebody to be able to speak to it when the town meeting comes. I guess that's what I'm trying to say here.
I think that Carolyn and I know Krista Collins got up at the last town meeting. I think they did a good job of speaking to the CPA article that they had then. Hopefully the same can happen at this town meeting where they both can get up and explain the current situation and the path forward. No pun intended, the path forward. Okay.
So did we take a vote then on the articles
No.
1 through 9?
Not yet.
Not yet. Did we
Julie, you
second?
got that I amended it, right?
Yeah, I
it's
got the
one-
amendment.
Okay.
And Scott seconded, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't remember them promising that, Janet, last year. They did. They promised the sale of 2 lots to fund this.
I wouldn't say they
Or it was
promised it, but they
potential.
mentioned it.
They said it was
Well, it's an
it
option.
An
could be an
option.
option. Yeah.
Could be an
Okay.
option.
Okay.
I just think if the option is being removed, people should know that, because I think people gave the money thinking that we might get that money back if the lots were sold. I just want transparency. That's all I'm asking for.
Okay.
But what, I think, Janet, the other point was, at the time, they didn't know with the CPA funds that even if selling the lots means that money goes back into the CPA, it doesn't go into another fund, so. And I don't think that was known at the time that they were voting back in November. Is that correct, June, Margaret?
That's how I understood it too, Julie.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they had mentioned something about Sudbury Valley was going to purchase the land in whole. And then if they had to help offset the cost for what the town was going to pay, they would sell off a lot to help offset the costs of it, is what I think was mentioned. And I know that if CPA funds are used to purchase the land prior to the sale, then any sale of the land would then have to revert back to CPA first.
And there's no doubt in my mind that the administrative costs and the, all the costs associated with subdividing the parcels would also have to be added to this land acquisition cost. So it's just going to be an extra cost. I agree. I think that I'm sure that they'll be prepared, get up and speak to what the current situation is. And yes, transparency is everything.
So, Margaret, on that last point, there are already multiple parcels within that unit. I have to look at each file, but it may
Right, but they're not being subdivided out. They're all being joined together for the acquisition, right?
well, okay.
Oh. I see what you're saying, Mary.
Yeah, there's a parcel that's already marked off. Parcel 10B is 7.26 acres. Well, you might have to subdivide that, and that's in, I believe, in the flat area. So as I look at the map, there are 3 parcels involved here. One is 36.5 acres, another 56.4, and another 7.26. So it's not like it's a single unit here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to orient myself. Crosby Road and Lyman. Okay, so,
Alignment.
right, so it would be on the town side of Lyman with access to Linden, that parcel.
Isn't there one piece that's really close to the brook that has frontage?
That's on the Lyman side, I believe.
Yeah. It's flat on both sides of Lyman, as I'm looking at this map here. On any of that, that's not something.
You got the aqueduct on the other side of Lyman, don't you?
Yeah. Actually, I guess I'm I think that's the aqueduct I'm looking at on this map.
Isn't most of the flat on Linden and Crosby? Because then it forks at Lyman and goes up by the brook.
Well, Janet, the Crosby comes into Lyman. So
Right.
what I'm seeing on this map, the parcels don't extend the whole way to Crosby. They stop short, but they do abut the aqueduct, I guess. Yeah.
Well, that would be on
Lyman, right?
No, Crosby. Lyman doesn't start until the corner and goes up the hill. Crosby starts at Linden, am I right? And goes straight
No.
through? Or is it the
No.
other way around?
The other way around.
Yeah.
All right, so it's
Lyman starts
Lyman,
at the corner.
Lyman and Linden. Sorry, you're
And
right.
it's,
you're
and
right.
it's very flat there at the corner
Yeah,
of Linden and Lyman.
Correct.
So that's,
Yeah. And
that's where the building was.
Yeah, you're right. I misspoke. Yep.
'Cause that was a school, wasn't it?
Yeah,
well,
yeah. Whatever. It doesn't matter. All right.
You're right, Margaret. There would be costs. The question is, I knew there was a subdivision already in the land in question.
And do we have to pay interest to Sudbury Trust for purchasing it? Where does that cost come out of?
We had that long discussion at an earlier meeting, Janet, where you were in it.
I can't remember. I just.
No, I think you missed that one, Janet. I think that was the one you were not here.
Oh, I didn't have internet. Yeah, sorry.
Right.
Was
I'll go
that
back and
only,
listen.
was that only though, if we had to wait another year before we had all the funds available?
Look, until we paid back, right? Paid Sudbury Valley back.
And that's where the grants that Concom was taking.
and the
That's
time.
yeah, the timing of the grants. That was the issue.
Mhm.
So it's unknown whether we would have those costs, but yes, it's not stated as to a dollar amount and where it would come from. Because I think it's very unknown.
All right. Thank you for putting up with me.
So do we have any further discussion on our motions here of 1 through 9 excluding 6? Hearing none, roll call vote. Stan, aye.
Mary, I.
And I.
Yeah,
Scott,
Do you want to go through the consent articles individually, or these are all the same consent articles that you see every year?
No.
Okay, thank you. Those are 10 through 16. If anybody has any specific questions on any of them, just holler. Okay, wait a minute. 16. Yeah, okay, so 17. Well,
do you need a
outstanding town
motion on? Do you need a motion on those?
No, doesn't require a finance committee recommend. Well, at least there's not a finance committee recommendation shown here.
Fine.
we need for Article 13, right?
Article 13.
And 14,
Did I
13 and
divide-
14.
Oh, I apologize. Yes,
And
I skipped
15.
them too fast. Yeah, because it does involve my. Yeah, so I'm going to be filling in the article. That's the budget article that's referred to in both of these articles.
Yeah, so it's just 3 of them, right? 13, 14, and 15.
I can
Because,
only see 15. Is it 13, 14, and 15, if I remember correctly?
Okay, let me.
The 13 is the revolving accounts, which are the standard
Oh, yeah,
ones, so the
okay.
library, recreation.
Yeah, you're gonna
So
see
the-
another revolving account article later, but yeah, this is the standard one. And then 14 is the tree warden expense for pest control. And then the next one, oh, wait, what does it say? Wait, oh, yes, I'm sorry. I'm losing it. Okay, 14 is pest control. And then, okay, 15 is the apportionment of Chapter 90 monies. We receive the state Chapter 90 monies every year.
So do we want to just vote on these three? I mean, they're like,
Right.
since they are the standard.
13, 14, 15.
I'm taking that as a motion, Scott, and I'll second it.
Okay. I was gonna say, I spoke up. Should I do the motion?
Sorry, so is that seconded?
I second Scott's motion.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I just need a little clarity, because Margaret started saying we've got consent articles 10 through 16, so we're now looking at a group of, what are we doing with 10 and 11? We're not voting on those? 10, 11, 12?
Let me see.
Trying to be
I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. I cut and paste from last year's annual town meeting the consent articles. So if you do want to do a recommendation on any of these, please just let me know. Okay, so this is to choose elected officials.
I'm just interested in the article numbers. So we're not voting
Okay.
on 10, 11, and 12, and then we get into 13, 14, 15, we want to vote. Is that where we're at?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, so any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, Stan, aye.
Aye.
Janet, I.
Julie, I.
God,
Okay. 17 is just the to hear any outstanding town reports. And mine is outstanding. No. Okay.
What?
Come on, everybody. Where's your sense of humor?
I think ours is outstanding, actually.
I
We
bet,
need to talk
I'm
about
sure
that
it
more.
is.
Yeah. no.
Okay. Okay, so June, would you like to touch on this one?
I have to unmute, otherwise I can talk all night. This article is to actually do some housekeeping and also do some revisions. We're just updating the revolving funds that were originally appropriated and set up way back when, and we're going to be removing the dog licenses. A few years back, we stopped using that and just increased Eloise's line item for dog expenses, and the funds have just been being turned over to the general fund revenue. The library is going to stay. The assessor's map is being removed. We stopped using that a few years back. Recreation is still there, just as it was before. And the town hall revolving is still also there at this point in time. We are removing the permitting software, which we did away with 2 years ago, I think, a year and a half ago. So we're no longer using that because we don't have that software package anymore that we need to worry about fees. What we are doing a little differently is, in the past, we had always had the plumbing and gas inspector and the electrical inspectors in as offset receipts, meaning that we would appropriate what we thought was going to come in, and then we would spend the money as it came in. There was a lot of paperwork involved because both of our inspectors get paid a different percentage of the fees that they take in, which is fine. But when we started to get a lot of larger projects, the permits and the inspections would sometimes take a few months to actually process. With some of the bigger projects, it was years, with River Bridge, those type of projects. So what we've been doing is the same thing we've always done. And it is that every single permit that's pulled, we have been dividing it by the number of months that it's going to be there for. So that way there, we didn't pay the person right away. And then if anything happened, they left or became deceased, we didn't have any money to actually pay the next inspector to come in. So we've been trying to work with the building inspector on this, commissioner, and where we did have a recent loss of Henry with the electrical, and we have to hire a new person. We're looking at changing the way that we're paying them. We're going to be doing it out of revolving funds. So this way here, the money that will be paid out to the inspectors will go into the revolving account. And the difference, which with the plumbing and gas, it would be 5% of the fees. Electrical, it would be 25% of the fees would be turned over into just general fund every year. And we will be paying the inspectors twice on their permit, and they will be responsible for it. So it's a little bit different, but we're adding them to a revolving and doing away with the offset receipts.
I have
Offset
a,
receipts were more than cumbersome. They involved, you know, there was duplicate tracking, both in the inspector's office and accounting, and it was just a major project every single month for payments.
And one of the major issues we were running into with these multiple year projects was technically, legally, offset receipts is supposed to be closed out at the end of a fiscal year. Versus with the revolving fund, it can be held open year to year as however long it takes them to be able to be paid for the inspection.
I had a quick question. So this one here is going to set the $75,000 limit, though, on revolving funds for the inspectors. Is that correct from what I read? If you scroll up to the top section, the wording.
Yes. Right,
Before
I'm sorry, the article
table,
wording
yeah.
itself.
Yeah, before the table, it says that it's setting a $75,000 limit for the inspector
Inspectors.
revolving.
Yes, yeah.
So one, maybe I'm just confused here, or maybe it's another bookkeeping thing. Shouldn't like Article 18 have appeared before Article 13, and then 13 sets those limits, and shouldn't the 75,000 been in the limits in Article 13?
That was a struggle because Article 13 is the consent article that sets the expenditure limits for the other articles. It was almost like 6 to 1, half dozen of the other. Do you either, you know, combine it with the standard revolving fund article that sets the expenditure limits, or do you combine it with the bylaw amendment, which the bylaw amendment would have to be amended to include these positions? So Scott, it's a great question, and town council is looking at that to see how we should have these appear.
The other thing
Okay.
is, Scott, too, is that before we had the inspectors, which we are going to have to adjust, I just thought of that. The inspectors' pay will no longer be a line item in the budget. So, because we're not appropriating money from offset receipts anymore. So we will actually just be setting up their payment through the revolving fund in the future.
Okay.
So starting on these, Mary, are we voting on these individually?
That's up to you if you'd like to, or if you want to keep moving. If there's anything that you think there might be a split vote on, we could stop. Whatever
Well,
you'd like to do.
I would suggest that we continue, and if there is that, then we stop at that point and maybe vote everything up to that point.
Okay. So we move along.
As long
Okay,
as
and-
someone
point-
can
only thing
remember
I'll
the
point
numbers
out
you're
is-
working on.
Oh no,
I'll just point out,
I'm keeping track, Janet.
Okay.
Scott?
I just have to point out, I have to leave in 8 minutes to pick up my son.
Okay, let's see how
So-
quickly we can go. This is next year's Cable Access Committee PEG spending article. This would not only appropriate 79,535 for the Cable Access Committee's operating expenses, but also $50,000 in case the project goes to next year. It's the only way we'd be able to fund that HD meeting room project. Should the project be finished this year, again, we're talking with town council about how to word this to make sure they're not getting $50,000 twice. Any questions on this one? Okay. Capital budget. This is the standard capital budget grid. Again, the column with sunset clauses is now, oh, wait a second. There's no sunset clause. You know, it does direct that unexpended funds would return to their original funding sources. The total capital budget is at $497,619. Of that, 367,000. Oh gosh, I can't read it. $614 would be from free cash, and $130,005 would be from public safety stabilization. If this is presented as an entire grid, it's going to require a 2/3 vote because it does appropriate money from a stabilization fund. Any question on these? I know, Janet, you were involved in the whole thing. So and just to note too, item 7, again, this year, the capital planning committee is looking to put more money into the capital stabilization fund. So money that is coming from free cash essentially is going into capital stabilization. So it's not being spent out on capital items directly. It's going to be put in this kitty for large capital projects.
And am I correct in stating that that's the certain percentage that we're allowed to put back in, right?
Yes, that's according to the finance
Right.
committee's use of free cash guidelines. That's
Just
the,
wanted to point that Anna was very proud of herself for making sure we followed that guideline.
yes, that is the 10% that's allocated under those guidelines. Yep. Okay. Next is the budget article, annual operating budget article, where various motions will be presented for each budget section. Okay, here's capital preservation, community preservation.
Should we vote till this point, maybe right now?
Up to 21.
Yeah, because I think Scott had some questions about this one, unless he got them resolved with the previous one.
We have questions too.
All right, so can I make a motion to vote on articles? Is it 17 or 16 through 21? I can't remember.
It's gonna be 18.
18 to 21, okay.
Yep.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, Stan, aye.
Carry on.
Janet, I.
Julie, I.
Scott, I. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to leave now. Can't have my son standing outside 4 kicks with no parent.
All right,
Hello.
Scott, see you
Thanks.
soon.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
We might be still talking about this when you come back.
Oh, Lord, I hope not.
Well, so I
Do we
think,
have to do this all tonight? Or do? can
well,
we-
according to your calendar, this would be the night, but
Okay,
it's up to you if you'd like to schedule another meeting to finish this up. I can tell you that the select board will not be voting to sign, or at least if they vote to sign the warrant on Monday night, it's going to be subject to town council's review of the entire warrant. So there's at least another week that you could be going through this.
Just have to remember to schedule a meeting because I think
Yep.
this is the last one on the chart.
How many more articles are there? I did look at them all. I just can't remember.
18. Oh, well, 17 or 18. The ones that you have to deal with? Oh, well, Articles
Yeah.
35 through 40, you wouldn't have to, those are zoning bylaw.
Right.
I think, actually, I think
This is it,
personnel.
right?
Yeah, you're getting through
Okay.
you're getting through a lot of the financial ones here now, so. All right, so, when we were working on this, town fund, sources and balances, today, June mentioned that she needs to set up a meeting with Tim Wheeler to go over the amounts for this article. This is set up exactly as it was, for the FY22 budget. But June really wants to go over numbers with Tim.
Well, I'm okay with Article 22.
Oh,
I'm having an issue with Article 23 just because it wasn't what Tim and I had talked about, because I was under the impression that they spent all their money last town meeting. So I just have concerns that we're not using current funding. We're actually budgeting for next year's. So I just need him to make sure he's aware of that. We're actually spending 2 unofficial years worth. I hate this, just so you know. I have to make that
CPA?
record. I hate
I
CPA.
agree with you. Can we see number 23? Because that was a question that we had, I think, on, like,
Well,
how-
what do you want to do with, what do you want to do with 22? Do you want to do anything with 22?
I think I want to see 23 before I decide on 22.
So just to
20
set the feel for it, is that Article 22 is pretty much just the Community Preservation Committee setting up their 10% that needs to be set up every year into the 3 categories. And they're doing that based on fiscal year 23 money that will come in.
Should we not be
So
spending money we don't have?
the 22 is money that, this is the way it's actually supposed to be done. So they're saying that when the money comes in fiscal year 23, they're telling me that I have to take the 52,250 of each of the 3 categories. I need to put those funds in there at the end of the closing of the year. Now, I know that with community preservation, I think most of the time they would do their appropriations in the fall, but that's based on the books closing for fiscal year 22. So right now, when we had town meeting it was in November, right?
Yeah,
We spent pretty much all of the current, I don't want to call it free cash, but it's pretty much CPA free cash amounts. And they left it with like pennies left, I thought, in the account. So I'm just I need to talk with Tim just to be confident to say that there's money available, because looking at what I have, it almost looks like he's spending future money, not just 1 year, but 2 years of
are
future
you allowed
funding.
to do that with CPA funding?
Again, CPA funding is still new to me, but I don't believe you're supposed to appropriate it on projects unless it's actually been closed and available. Or if you are doing it in the future, you have to borrow to fund it. So it's
You have to take-
my concern.
Oh, so you have to take that money from another account, and then when it comes in to the CPA account, you have to transfer it. Is that what you mean?
No, I mean like physically borrow money.
Oh, go to a bank and borrow it?
Yes, because
Borrow?
they're
Okay.
physically, they don't have the funds there. And I'm just concerned about that, where they physically have cash on the books, but unfortunately they've already earmarked like $700,000 from last year for projects. So
Okay.
I need to double check with Tim.
So for Article 22 and 23, you don't know if we have the accurate numbers. Is that the whole gist of this?
I'm not comfortable with the numbers, but that doesn't mean they're not correct.
Okay.
Looking at what I have, I would not be able to say to you, yeah, we've got money, this is all works out and it's okay.
I'm trying to remember if this is one of the, if these are a couple of the articles the select board held on Monday night or not. I'd have to go back and look, but I think it's worth getting answers, obviously, before recommendations are made, so.
Yeah, one of the other mechanisms, did we do this last year where for some things we didn't have a comment ready for the report, but we discussed it and brought it at the actual town meeting? Is that a possibility, since it seems like we need time to get, we don't really have the information we need to make a knowledgeable decision here?
The finance committee's recommendation could be added to the motion sheet, or it could be made verbally at town meeting, however you'd like to do it.
Okay.
Well, I'm with June on this, and we kind of had some, I think this, I'm vaguely remembering this, hearing this somewhere else, so I'm fine with skipping over it and waiting till we have more answers.
Yeah, I agree.
Then that would be the same then for the next article, correct, June? So,
22 and 23.
holding on articles 23 and 24. 24 is the $100,000 for Bullet House.
Yeah,
So
because they're
we're holding
talking
on-
about, yeah.
I'm sorry, 22, 23, 24, is that what we're gonna wait to finalize everything at once?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, next. Oh. Okay, this is an article that's proposed by the Board of Assessors. Currently, people who are having some financial or having financial concerns are allowed to, well, qualified people are allowed to defer their tax payments, and currently they pay 5% interest on those tax payments. This article would reduce that percent on interest to 2%.
Which I believe, after listening to Molly the other night, this was hoping people would be able to maybe would be more likely to pay than not pay.
Okay, I'm sorry, I should be moving along unless
I
there's any
think
other.
currently, just to throw it out there, I think currently we only have one person that's actually has deferrals, if not two. It's either one or two people.
Yeah.
So we should make a motion on this then? Is that what you're asking, Margaret?
We can keep scrolling unless there are other, let's see
Oh, I
what's
see what you're
next.
saying. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, let's see what's next. Oh, there's another one here. Police Bridge Academy training. This has been discussed, and too bad Scott's not here. I do remember Scott speaking to this. This is a 2-year training program, and initially the chief had presented this amount in the operating budget rather than bundling it into the operating budget and having it appear year after year, because it's only a 2-year program. The thought was to present this as a special article that would pay for the training costs over 2 years, rather than build it into the operating budget.
Yeah, we wouldn't see a big spike over the next 2 years and then somebody forget about it being there to remove it in that third year.
Yeah. Any questions on that? Okay, then that's 25 and 26 so far. Okay, 27 and 28 are the Conservation Commission's requested articles for the funding of that land acquisition. This is the one that appropriates 260 from open space and 100,000 from free cash for a total of 360,000. The next article, and you probably saw my comments on the next article, if I did put them on the next article. Let me just see if I can show those comments. This is where I have requested that town council try to find us some wording or some assurance that a reimbursement grant, whether it's the MVP grant or the land grant, which is this particular article, that free cash is repaid first, and CPA, the undesignated Community Preservation Fund balance is repaid for any legitimate CPA purpose. And then they could build their trails, I suppose, if any additional money is left over. But I'd like to assure that the taxpayers see a return on their investment, on their investment of funds.
Margaret, to be clear though, what we're seeing here is
Yeah.
the whole shebang, is what
This
they
is the
need.
whole,
But this is what, they're not gonna need any more money for the purchase. With all the
they have
different,
confirmed, yeah, we've got confirmation in writing that they are not going to need more land, they're not going to come back for more funding for the acquisition.
okay, so no, that's good, because that means like, we know we have, it's not like, oh, we're buying this, and then next year it's like, oh, now I gotta pay for this, and then, you know, it's like,
Yep,
we're getting, a nice cohesive, set of numbers here, which is good. My thing is, because Scott, you know, he had to leave, but he had brought up the thing about the future open space repaying the free cash.
yes.
Is that what he brought up? Was that a feasible, was that a reasonable request? That,
I do think it's a reasonable request. And I don't see placing, ooh, this is interesting, actually. I'm trying to think about,
because then we wouldn't have to work, because isn't that the only bit of money right now that's not coming out of the CPA?
free cash, the combination free cash and open space money is not coming out of CPA, right? That's right. And the $50,000 grant that SVT secured is also going to this.
Yeah, because because that sounds like if we had that request in, it's even
So
less of a,
I think this is something that we have to think that is going to need to be thought of next year. First of all, whose obligation, you know, is it going to be an article that's placed automatically on the annual town meeting warrant every year? Or is it going to be requested by the Conservation Commission? Is it going to be an article that's placed asking to move $50,000 from free cash to the open space fund? And then town meeting has an opportunity to vote it up or down. You know, it's the logistics of it still have to be worked out for future years.
okay.
I think because it's meant to fund open space, and our responsibility is to find a legal mechanism to have it go to open space. It just seems to me that it would need to be presented to the voters to vote up or down anyway.
Okay.
You know, in the development agreement, it's pretty clear. It is open space mitigation funds.
Yeah.
So.
No, I was just saying, I think his idea was that 100,000 to close this deal, if I was understanding correctly, could be repaid back over the next few years from the open space. And it wouldn't even have to be the whole thing, because it could be like half of it every year go, or, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean,
Does open space always mean conservation?
typically in the statute, that's what's intended. As far as how our account is set up, June, is it statutory, or did we ever adopt a statute to establish the open space fund? Or is it a separate account?
It was there when I came in 34 years ago. I honestly, I don't know if we've ever actually set it up as a proper fund, but yeah.
Okay. So Julie, the answer to your question is, it would be a legitimate mechanism to get the money back into free cash. But I also think that because the development agreement is specific, that it's open space mitigation funds.
It still would be going to open space.
Yeah.
But it's
Because
just that they would,
we're like borrowing from it for the future.
from future, hopefully from future payments.
Yeah. I'd like to see the easy repayment and get the grant and have the $100,000 go right back into free cash.
Mhm.
Put it right back.
Yeah,
The only other thing is keep in mind here with all of this is that again, conservation is going to have approximately 24,000, I think, left, but that has to pay for the rest of this year's payroll for Maddie. And it also is going to pay for any legal costs associated with this or anything else they do.
Right.
And also interest, which we haven't yet gotten any numbers as far as how much the interest was going to be.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to throw that out there because Julie just said, so they're never going to come back and ask for more money. I don't know how that's going to work. If they've got enough money left over, that's great, but they don't normally get a lot of money in other than a very small amount of interest every month where they've depleted most of the open space funding.
Yeah, again, we've received written confirmation that they're not going to, that this is all they need for the acquisition and they're not going to come back for additional funding for this. So we will see.
Not for the purchase, but it still doesn't cover the closing costs and interest and all that either.
shouldn't that be included with the purchase cost? The closing costs, the legal fees,
Could
all
be,
that.
but that's a question. I think that's a question for conservation. I can't say that I have those details handy.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have any type of purchase or sales agreement to go by at this point in time.
No. Okay, 24. What, so you've got, now I've forgotten. I don't have what was
Well, we
25?
started at 25, Article 25.
25 was what? That
26.
was, oh, that was the tax deferral, interest rate reduction. 26 was Bridge Academy. And then 27 and 28 are the conservation. So let's see what's next. And oh my God, I'm sorry.
Once you get going, it's just really hard to slow you down there,
I
Margaret.
know. Okay, there we go. I'm back. So I have to say this is a late ad that the select board has been informed of, but has not yet voted on. This general stabilization funding is also a component, a bucket in the finance committee's use of free cash guidelines. So this moves 10% of the certified free cash this year into the general fund, the general stabilization fund, in order to bolster that number. So that would bring the balance from $1,213,402.66 to $1,411,16.16 or 66 cents. Any comments on that? Okay. I'm citing numbers here, even though these aren't numbered, but we know that we started with 25. Okay, this next one, is to establish an affordable housing trust fund. Right now, the town has a housing partnership. Eloise has been trying to hold that together to the best of her ability. Meanwhile, the town has, June, we have close to $600,000 total in affordable housing funds. The affordable housing account has almost 200. And then we've got CPA now that's putting aside their allotments to affordable housing. And yet we have no mechanism in place to manage our affordable housing. And that we do contract with Metro West Community Development and the Assabet Housing Consortium to monitor our affordable housing, but we don't have a mechanism in place in which we could potentially, subsidize units in order to assure that the units remain affordable in perpetuity, or or assist with something like Habitat for Humanity and building affordable units. This would actually put a mechanism in place, a dedicated trust in which we could take more proactive affordable housing steps. The handout, I don't know if I sent the handout to you. Did I send the handouts along with this warrant?
No.
Okay, I'm going to have to send you the handouts. This article comes with a handout and it's fully explained in the handout. I apologize. Tim had put that together. It describes, it explains what a municipal affordable housing trust is.
So, Margaret, I just attended the meeting last night, so
Okay.
if if others have questions, I can speak to it.
Oh, good.
About the handout, I just want to understand the 600,000 that change that town clerk is managing. Are those monies that had to be paid back because a property went out of affordable housing status? June is nodding
I
yes.
believe so, yes.
So I just wanted to clarify that.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I think particularly with the CPA coming online and having a housing component, that the town really does need to do this. We're getting help from who is Emily? She's Central Regional Planning. Yeah, I think.
Metro West Collaborative Development.
All
It's
right.
called the Azabet Housing Consortium is what we call it, the group.
So what that article is going to do for the other FinCom people is set up a trust, the trust to be managed by 7 trustees. I think that's required under Massachusetts law. We have 7, and they would be people from town appointed by the select board, and they would then manage that fund that Eloise is holding plus the CPA monies, all with a focus on affordable housing and having the ability to take in properties and do things to manage the housing stock that fits that category. So how am I doing, Margaret?
You're doing excellent.
I just heard it last night, and there is language. It's in pretty close to final draft that I think will go with this warrant,
Mm-hmm.
which is the description of what this housing trust would be.
Yeah.
Or,
Well, this is unfortunate that I neglected to send the handouts to you, because there are three articles on this warrant that they're explained in more detail on the handouts. So
well, yeah, I think there was discussion. I'm pretty sure it's going to happen at a town meeting to send out a survey questionnaire
okay.
to people in town to get their views on housing and the needs and so on, and then there will be forums to public forums, workshops to inform people about what's going on.
I should note that this, oh, sorry, go ahead, Mary.
No, I'm done, sorry.
Okay, this article only establishes the Housing Trust Fund. It doesn't yet establish it. So that would have to come at a later time.
The bylaws would be separately done, yeah. Is that what you mean? Yeah.
Okay.
Did I dream this, or do I also remember that this also like will assist people like to be able to maybe stay in their house longer, like being able to like put up a ramp or something? Did I hear that somewhere else, or is that something else?
I don't know about putting up a ramp. I think there are probably ways that a person could be helped as far as continuing to live in their house if they met. You know what? I don't want to speak too deeply into this because I don't know.
Okay.
I think there are a number of things that could be done with affordable housing.
Okay, sorry.
Janet, I'm reading from the trust document. The purpose of the trust is to provide for preservation and creation of affordable housing in the town of Berlin for the benefit of low and moderate income households. So, and I don't, the trust can carry property if needed. It can settle claims. It can manage or improve real property and abandon it. So it might, what you're proposing might fit in. that might be property that the trust is holding, manages or improves. I don't know about somebody else's property.
Are we at a point, Margaret, where you want us to vote on some things? Because I don't know how far along we've gotten. It sounds
I have to
like,
be honest, I don't know how much longer I can make it.
no, I know, that's why I'm
I'm losing it.
asking. I don't know what
All
we
right, so. All
Want
right,
to
so
do
we,
these and
call it a day.
we've done everything since 25. Oh, and of course this, I have it numbered on this sheet here. Let me just see what this number would be. Statute acceptance of the municipal. This would be Article 30.
That the last one, Margaret?
That would be this one, the Affordable Housing
No,
Trust.
no, is that the last financial?
No, there's a couple more. This is another statute acceptance that would establish an other post-employment benefits. This is a trust fund, and I'm sure the town council is probably going to add the word trust fund. This would be, oh gosh. All right, so there are governmental accounting standards that towns have been, not just towns, public entities have been required to adhere to. When a municipality, a school district, or other public entity provides post-employment health insurance benefits, other than pension benefits to their employees, there is a liability for future post-employment benefits. The OPEB trust fund is meant to establish a funding source to fund future liabilities for post-employment health insurance, medical insurance. The town does not currently offer retiree health insurance. I think Berlin is among, it's probably a dozen, I can't remember, a dozen towns in the Commonwealth that does not offer retiree health insurance. And the Insurance Advisory Committee has been meeting to try to determine ways in which to fund the OPEB trust fund and to fund as-you-go retiree health insurance for individuals that don't yet meet the Medicare standards, 65 years old. I'm probably talking all over the place at this point, but this would establish the OPEB trust fund. This does not yet establish it. The board voted 2-1 on Monday night to place this article on the warrant for the, I think that the two members that did vote affirmatively felt that it would be a good opportunity for the town to discuss not only what the OPEB trust fund is, but the Insurance Advisories Committee prior discussions on providing retiree health insurance, what it means for recruitment and retention of employees, and the Insurance Advisories Advisory Committee's ideas for funding retiree health insurance. June, you've participated in the last few IAC meetings, and I haven't been able to go. Is there anything I'm missing here?
Yeah, we're not right where we want to be as far as being able to set up a proposal with the actual closest costs that we could possibly come to. We're still working on it. There was talk with Janet Pierce from Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, who was willing to come out and sit with us. I'm thinking that it would probably be a good idea to set up some sort of a workshop on this so that we can find out what our actual costs would be associated with this. OPEB was pretty much set up, the trust fund was to help to make sure that you're setting aside funds for later on. So it's just important to do that versus, you're coming down 10 years from now and all of a sudden you have expenses that need to go out. This would help, I believe, to more level the cost association with it. Trying to think what else. I mean, there's a lot of things. We haven't come up with total policies yet because we're still working on what's legal and what isn't. as far as whether, you know, elected officials would be covered, if you have to have certain years of service to the town to be able to join. What's the rate? I think our actuary had used our current rate, which is the employees pay 25% and the town pays 75%. With retirees' health insurance, you can vote it as just 50-50. So that way there, the town wouldn't have to pay the 75%. It would just be the 50. But again, I think the biggest reason why that they voted to allow this on is, like Margaret said, is just to get a feel for everybody's thoughts on it, and just to bring it up for discussion at this time.
Finance committee members probably recall in your use of free cash guidelines, this was one of the buckets that was set up but hasn't been funded yet because the trust fund hasn't been established. The thought when the finance committee adopted the use of free cash guidelines was to put the funds that would otherwise go here into the general stabilization fund until such time an OPEB fund was established. But we have not done that with the general stabilization fund. We've held off on that. So, but it is on those guidelines. Okay. We might actually be close to the end of finance related articles. Let's see. The next one, and I sincerely apologize. I will send those handouts out to you. The personnel bylaw amendment is really an overhaul of the personnel bylaw that was last amended in 1999. So it's been a long time coming. Personnel committee voted unanimously to do this. Doesn't require, well, I don't think it requires a finance committee recommendation. What it does is the bylaw will begin, this bylaw amendment would start referring to established policies and procedures rather than writing every last little personnel policy detail in the bylaw itself. This next one is a proposed combined earthwork bylaw. Right now we have two separate bylaws that create a whole lot of complexity. And it's very hard to understand what bylaw governs in certain situations. So town council is reviewing a proposed combined earthwork bylaw that would remove the current two separate bylaws. This next one is on by popular demand. It's the engine jake brake bylaw. And the Traffic Safety Advisory Committee has brought this forward and will be providing a summary for this article. And come on. There are how many? 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zoning bylaws that follow. And lastly is the town election article. So
Sounds like you need a motion.
yes.
Yes, Dan, so we need a motion for, I assume we're gonna wait until June speaks to Tim, and we're not gonna vote on the Concom articles 27.
Right.
OCPA.
So it looks to me like we have Article 25, the tax deferral, I think we vote on that, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And 26, the police academy.
Yeah.
And then
Now, the purchase of the conservation land, these two articles did not involve the CPA funds. These two articles, the first one was use of free cash in open space. The second one was the land grant reimbursement, confirming the purchase of the land and then the grant reimbursement.
oh, okay, all right. Okay, then we have 29, which is, well, actually, I know I'd have a split vote on the 27 and 28, so
Okay.
I don't.
All right. Then, so you're looking at 25, 26, 29?
29, yeah, that's what I was trying.
Okay.
The general stabilization fund is 29.
Okay.
And then, housing trust and trust.
Housing, yeah, the housing trust fund, that's 30.
30, yeah. And then, how about the post-employment benefits?
And, oh, what did you say, Mary? I'm sorry.
Should we vote on the post-employment benefits? What would
That's
be-
31.
Oh,
It's up to
31.
the finance committee.
31 is, yeah, okay. So we need to vote on 31.
So 25, 26, 29, 30, and 31.
30. Yes.
Okay.
And I will move that we vote to approve those articles.
So did we have a second on that?
Oh, sorry, I've been muted. Julie will second.
So any further discussion? Hearing none, Stan, aye.
Okay.
Julie, aye.
Scott, do you want to vote on this, or
I think oh, is he back? Sorry.
he's back?
It just got back.
Sorry, Scott.
Okay. So we'll say 4-0 on those.
Well, Scott voted too, right? Did you vote, Scott?
Did you vote on that,
I-
Scott?
No, I did not vote. I don't know. I don't know what you're voting. I just literally just came in. So
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Okay. Okay. Well, that wraps it up. So Scott, just to try to catch you up here, that motion and vote was on Articles 26, 25, 26, 29, 30, and 31. Shown on that spreadsheet you have. That was tax deferral, interest rate reduction, police bridge academy training, funding general stabilization, and the 2 statute acceptance articles. I think, Mary, you was there a request to hold off on 27 and 28?
No, I mean, I know what I want to do with them, so if we want to vote on those, we can.
Yeah, I think we just want to do them separately, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So do you want to make a motion on 27?
Well, I don't want to vote in favor of 27. I want conservation in Sudbury Valley to sell a lot. I don't want to fund it as suggested in Article 27. I'm in favor of the purchase in Article 28, but I want the funding for the purchase to be funding to be done differently. So I'm not going to move on Article 27 because I vote no to it.
Well, you could make a motion that says we don't support it.
Well,
Or-
I move that we vote not to approve Article 27. How's that?
And now we'll see if someone wants to second it.
Is everybody on mute or is just nobody's with me?
Okay, I will second because I want to hear the opinion on why. I'm kind of, I'm not really feeling strongly one way or the other, so I'd like to hear your opinion on.
I'm in agreement with you as well, Mary, and I'm sorry, I was trying to speak and I didn't realize I was muted. I totally agree. I want the purchase, but I really think we need to think about how we're going to purchase it.
Yeah. And Julie, if I can articulate some of my thought pattern here. This purchase, this conservation, I believe is important, and I'm a, you can describe me as a tree hugger, but I also have a pragmatic side to me. And I have no issue with the sale of the lots to fund, and particularly Julie, as I start to think about affordable housing in Berlin, this is a great opportunity to have some action in that direction where a lot is used in conjunction with this whole arrangement for the purpose of affordable housing. You know, you go back to CPA on the affordable housing side of it, right? And what I've seen with this land acquisition is kind of vacuumed up every dollar of CPA monies and other projects. You know, there are the separate buckets. So the historical commission has got its project going, but conservation, you know, shares with recreation as part of the overall recreation. And as far as the pool of money that can go anywhere, conservation has taken that entire pool and put it in the direction of this purchase of land. And I'd just like to see a little more balance. And it is a possibility to use lot sales historically in the town of Berlin. That's one of the main ways that we put together funding for conservation purchases in the past. You know, it was Janet, you can speak to this, it was typical. So I'd like to see that done here.
Can I say, I actually love the idea of the affordable housing. It's some, you know, having moved out here, it's something I could feel kind of missing, these options. And I know people who run into it, of being able to, you know, have a place to live that they can afford. And when we were talking about this with Tim Wheeler, I really liked the idea too, when we were talking, you know, informally, when the CPA group was at FinCom a few months ago. And if it was, I would actually be very supportive of that.
Well, yeah, I've just complicated things, Julie. It's just a little bit of vision I have there, but
I know, but it's nice to hear other ways of thinking about this, using this resource, because that land, the town's going to own it. It's going to be a town resource.
yeah,
Right?
exactly. And you know, you talk about a senior walking trail. What if that affordable housing was intended for seniors affordable?
Yeah.
One of the things I hate to see, I've been in Berlin like 23 years, and I see the families that have been here 7, 8 generations, and some of the older members of these families have to leave town because they can't afford to live here on, you know, whatever, retirement, social security sort of things. And then the children grow up and can't stay in town because there's nothing for them to buy and own. So I see it as a real need here. And also as a part of the mix that's wonderful, the economic mix in this town and the mix of trades and professionals and all the rest of it. I think it's a really great mix of lifestyles and economic situations, and also of open space, you know, the agricultural component, all of that. So I'd like to see a little creativity around this, and a more balanced use of the CPA money. So I'll be curious what you know finds out with him on this, because it is an article. Yeah, it's not Article 27.
Yeah.
Why aren't they coming in clear so you can hear them?
I don't know. Somebody talking to me?
Is there somebody else? There's some sound in the background. Okay.
Whatever. I think I'm done. I'm talking too much here.
Okay.
Well, from my perspective, it's been always about, no, they had this new funding from the capital preservation or the community preservation tax, and no, I hate seeing them, you know, sticking into the free cash to continuing. I mean, it's like they've they got a lot of money, but it's not quite enough. And we're already now going to the free cash route. And I would like some way of seeing that it doesn't go, or if there was the free cash, as we talked about before here, it sounds like, no, we want to stop this practice in the future of the future open space land going directly into, automatically going directly into open space. I would be, in favor of something where in the agreement that like the next two, I guess it would be fiscal 23 and fiscal 24 of the $50,000 just go directly into free cash, unless free cash is replenished by, one of these grants, if they receive the grant and we're able to replenish the free cash from that. But that's where my objection is on this stuff, has been where they are already dipping into free cash.
I'm with you on that, Scott. That doesn't sit right with me either.
Wonder if, I'm happy to reach out to town council to see if there's anything we could do with some sort of language in this article that might do that over the next 2 years. I could ask. I don't know, but I don't know how much we can commit ourselves in future years, but I could certainly ask the question if you're interested in me doing that.
Well,
Yeah,
might be interesting, Margaret, but Concom and Sudbury Valley have another route here to close the gap in their funding, and that's what I'd really like to see for the reasons I stated. I'd like to see Concom sitting with affordable housing and getting something done with a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think it's a terrific opportunity.
I see, yeah.
I'm looking at a vision down the road. I know Scott is focused on these financial mechanisms, and it'd be interesting to have that question answered by town council. Scott, I'm speaking for you. I should just be quiet like you.
I don't know that we can put language for either or in the article, but both good things to think about.
Do we have any idea? I mean, I don't think I've ever heard a dollar amounts ever mentioned, but if they did lot sales, what a lot would even be something that they'd be, what that would be?
At the Capitol? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask Janet if she had an opinion on that, but go ahead, Julie. Capital planning.
Well, I was listening to the capital planning, and this is when I heard that they didn't want to sell the lots, and they were looking for the 125,000 that they were short. And Carolyn said that that was the equivalent of half a lot sale.
Yeah.
So that's like, I think that's still like back of the envelope.
Yeah.
Notation, but
So 125,000 would be about half of a lot sale. So they're saying a lot sale would be 250,000.
yeah.
Would that be a 80,000 square foot, 2-acre minimum lot size for Bourne? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know what they were talking about size wise. I think they were talking about number, because they were talking about they had 1 or 2 lots that they could sell. So,
well,
I mean, that sounds right based on what I've seen land lots in Northborough and surround. I mean, that's probably right for Berlin. But what I don't know, Mary, is how that, it seems like it's contradictory for lot sales to be tied with affordable housing, because if you're going to reduce the price to make it affordable, you're not accomplishing your goal. But maybe it's the one lot, I guess. Yeah. So, well, actually, maybe if it's just sold, you sell the one lot and you raise the 125 and but you sell it for 125 with the deed restriction that it has to be an affordable. Because what is our mechanism for ensuring that this becomes an affordable? I mean, this is a home that's built by the town. Is it a deed restriction like 40Bs that says it has to be a selling price at a certain point? I mean, how do we make this affordable?
You would want to have it be a permanent deed restriction under 40B for sure. it could be, it wouldn't necessarily be built by the town, and probably wouldn't be built by the town, but you'd work with some developer who would build it and market it at an affordable rate and assure that it's under 40B. You know, you could market it to, or offer the land to Habitat for Humanity, for example, you know, as an example.
So we've just voted on the trust, right? The housing trust.
Mhm.
The housing trust could manage this transaction with Sudbury Valley. And once we have bylaws in place, the housing trust could actually buy land.
Just keep in mind also though, is that we can't sell anything until we purchase it.
That's true.
So it would either be Sudbury Valley would be purchasing it and they would be selling it and they would be getting money for it. Because we don't have enough money at this point in time to actually make the purchase on our own.
I think the problem was once we bought it, we couldn't sell the lots.
Once we bought it for this purpose.
Yeah, if we bought it, we could sell it. The problem is any sales of property would have to go back to CPA
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay.
if we sold it.
Has that housing component. And we're looking at creating a housing trust in the town. So I muddied the water a bit, but I think it's a lost opportunity not to look at this possibility.
But it just sounded like both scenarios that June just said, neither one of those would allow for the money to come back to or replace this free cash money, because they wouldn't either they couldn't acquire the property because they didn't have enough money, in which case Sudbury Valley has to acquire it and they're going to be the ones who do the sale, and then it's not going to go for affordable. It's whatever, that's what they decide.
Well, I think we could have a conversation with Sudbury Valley about this possibility.
I think this goes back to conservation, because if I remember correctly, to answer your question earlier, they had said the lot sale would be somewhere between $200,000 and $250,000, which was $400,000 to $500,000, which at the time was about half of the asking price, and then they upped it another $125,000. I think that's what they talked about at the last town meeting, but you'll have to get that from Carolyn.
That sounds right, Janet.
And I get what June's saying, and I get your thought of affordable housing in town, but then it goes right back to, if you sell it for affordable, they're not getting the money, and then we're not getting them, then we're taking it still out of free cash. So it's like a, you know, I'd like it to be a win-win, but it sounds like more like a loss-loss.
Right, that's
Guys, separate out the land from the building that's put on the land. So it is the buildings that are affordable, not necessarily the land. And that, so they're kind of different questions. The land just opens up the opportunity for either.
Oh, yeah, I suppose you're right. But then if you're gonna put an affordable housing on a $200,000 or $250,000 lot, how affordable can the builder build the building to make it affordable?
But
well,
the
right.
other
I mean,
option,
so I was going to say
gonna
40B works because the land acquisition, your lot acquisition cost becomes less. That's why you're able to, because you can get higher density. You build the same buildings, and the whole point is that you're not supposed to be able to tell the difference between an affordable building and another building. So it actually is on the lot acquisition that you are needing to save the money on. Because you get more lots in the same footprint, so your lot cost is less.
Thank you, Stan. Yeah.
What about the, on the community preservation stuff, the community housing reserves? I mean, is that related to the affordable housing where, I mean, after the, you know, if they expend, they put in the 56,250, they must have the 77,000 or so in there that they had from the special town meeting. So they must be, they'd be getting it like to 125,000. And I don't know, I mean, is that even something that they would be the purchasers of something like that and you get your 100,000 that way? And they would leverage that.
Well, if we vote in a housing trust, the trust has the power to buy. The trust can do it.
Mhm.
And I'm back here looking at Article 22, and we're projecting for fiscal 23 reserves of 56,000 into community housing. There's already money in it, in the housing sector of the CPA.
Yeah, we did that special
Scott's
town
right.
meeting.
It's approximately 125 right now.
That's actual money in that account, Judy.
And that's
Yes.
gonna keep accumulating.
Right.
Yeah, because
Without any
until we have a
mechanism to-
trust, I don't think they can spend it.
Yeah.
So, again, there's a lot of details that I don't have in hand here. I'm just throwing out that concept.
It's a really good point, Mary. And the town has other municipal parcels. And if you look at something like the River Run parcel that the town has an option to purchase for $1, another potential location.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm not talking about turning the town into building developers. That's not the point. But to facilitate, we have the tools now. We're getting the tools to facilitate this kind of activity.
Okay, I'm gonna speak up because I have a very early morning tomorrow. Where are we at? Because I really need to think about wrapping this up. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I move to vote no on Article 27, which is the open space and free cash funding for the Lyman
Oh,
land.
you already did move? We already did move
Yeah,
in second?
well, and you seconded it,
Discussing.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
made
we're
a
just-
motion.
Discussion.
So why don't we vote on this then?
Just clarify, so a vote in favor is a no.
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
So this is only on 27 or 27 and 28? Because it
Only
says purchase of
27.
conservation.
Only
Only
article-
27.
Only 27, okay,
27.
okay.
So roll call vote, those in favor of Mary's motion, Stan, aye.
Mary, I.
Janet, I.
Lee, aye.
God, I.
Okay, so the finance committee is not in favor of this article 0 to 5.
What's 28, if you don't mind me asking? I did
Oh,
have
yeah,
them all
that's
pulled
the-
up at one
That's the
point.
land grant. That's
Okay,
that concerns that. Yeah, that's the there it is.
So, and Janet, just to help you along, get us off finish up this meeting, I would move that we vote in favor of Article 28.
I agree, Mary. I'll second.
Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, probably because we're all tired, but roll call vote, Stan, aye.
Mary, I.
Janet, I.
Aye.
God, I.
Got it. All right.
Okay,
Tomorrow or Friday, I'm going to send you back this draft warrant with the FinCom recommendations so you can look them over and make sure I got them right. I'll also send the 3 handouts that I talked about tonight, and I'm sorry I didn't get those to you earlier.
And we need to set up another meeting for next
Oh,
yeah.
Wednesday?
Yep, I was just gonna say that too, Julie.
Okay.
because what do we have left to discuss next Wednesday?
So if you had questions on, we held for discussion until further date, Articles 22 to 24,
Mhm.
Oh, right.
and we didn't get through the warrant.
I thought we did,
I don't think, did we do all of them? Wait a minute.
we did all
No,
the
we-
ones we needed to vote on.
Oh, we did, okay. I'm sorry.
So we have 2 articles left that we are up for discussion.
But we can do that at a
but
later
looking for
date.
more information.
Right.
We
Correct.
don't have,
We don't have to do that we wouldn't have to do that at that meeting. We could make a vote. We could make the vote a half an hour before town meeting if we chose to.
yeah,
Right.
So it's not like we have to, but,
Should we wait till April 6th, which would give people some time to get us some answers? Is that pushing it out too far? I mean, I don't know what's
well, we
next
couldn't get it
week.
in the town report. I mean, we can't get it in the town report. Anything after this week, technically, we can't get in the town report, but it sounds like maybe we have one more week, Margaret.
You have one more week, yeah.
So we should meet on the 30th then. Is that what you're
Well, and
saying?
if nothing, well, sure, it's in that way.
Okay.
But if we don't have further information, we just adjourn and call it a night and say that we
Okay.
talk about it when we
Fair
do.
enough. Yep.
Or you could cancel ahead of time if you really want to, but I'll go ahead and book it on Zoom and I'll put it on my town government.
thank you.
So I got the reminder that we haven't done our town report. So I know that that's typically from the chairman, but I think Mary, you did it for us through me last year.
It was the year before. Last year was a real easy one, Stan. You did it.
Oh, well, there you go.
Sorry, it's late. It's late. I'll just, if you can find the one you wrote last year and send it to me.
Sure.
Send it to me in Word and I'll gussy it up a bit and send
Sounds
it back.
great.
to you. Send it back to you and you can edit. I'm always happy to draft.
Love it. Thank you, Gussie.
Are we gonna call this a virtual
new
meeting
nickname.
or a Zoom? I mean, or a live, sorry.
I'm fine still staying on Zoom.
Okay, just
Okay,
putting it in my
yeah.
calendar, that's all.
And that's for the 30th, next Wednesday, yeah?
Correct.
Correct.
Thank you. I have to stay in my bubble a while longer.
Yeah, your bubble.
Yes, I'm like Bubble Boy. I don't know if you ever saw that Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah.
episode.
Oh, yeah.
I knew the reference.
Okay,
All right, Janet.
awesome. I'll stop. sharing.
Motion to adjourn.
At 9:44. Great job. Thank you.